So yeah, Sophie Cunningham today went on a little bit of I'm not going to say a little bit of a rant, but she was asked about the team's defense and she just said what she thought. She said what came into her head. She said what she wanted to say. And I would assume people in the org are not happy with this situation. I would assume they're not happy at all because this is something where you're like, okay, this is not an ideal scenario. Basically, she revealed the Indiana Fever have one defensive scheme. They have one defensive scheme only. I just want to see, can I find a point?
Yeah, it's we have all the pieces, and now you just got to put the identity is, and so we need to get away from that.
Defensively, what areas do you think you all can grow in? You talked about the toughness part, but also, like, are there tactics? Are there things you can do from a tactical standpoint?
Yeah, toughness is one of them. You just have to be willing to play defense. It's not fun. No one wants to do it, but the good defensive teams, they're the teams that win, and we have the personnel to do it. I think something that's hurting us.
Unpopular opinion or popular opinion, they don't. They don't have a single good perimeter defender. I think Raven projects to be a good perimeter defender in a couple of years when she figures out how to stop hacking. Raven is not currently a good defender. There is not one good defender. Like, if you look at advanced stats, Kelsey Mitchell is one of the 5 worst defenders in the league. Raven Johnson is one of the 15 worst defenders in the league. We all know the eye test will tell you that Caitlin Clark's not a great defender. Sophie Cunningham is not a very good defender. She's a disciplined defender. Like, Sophie Cunningham really tries on that end of the floor. She's not a great defender. Lexi Hull's a hustle player. She's not a great defender. Aaliyah Boston has had probably the biggest regression in defense I've seen in my life. And I think it's scheme related. Because she's somebody that in Unrivaled with infinite space looked like the best defender in Unrivaled. So, like, it's a scheme related. Aaliyah Boston didn't just forget how to play defense. But Aaliyah Boston's been terrible on defense this year. They've all been bad, other than occasional glimpses of Maisha Hines-Allen.
Sorry. Something that's hurting us right now is we're only playing one defensive scheme, and in this league, it's too good. You can't, and people are going to pick us apart. And so, we got to dial in. We got to focus. Your IQ has to be on point. You have to know what schemes we're doing, and if you can't do that, then you can't play. And that's the point where we're at right now.
When you say you're playing one defensive scheme, if you have others installed, you just aren't ready to run them in games?
I mean, we had probably 10 of them last year. Each team has stuff up their sleeve, but if you can't execute them, you can't do them. And so this team really does.
And yeah, she's not wrong. She's not wrong. And we've always talked about this situation, and it was the when Caitlin Clark got into it with Breanna in January. And it was if you watch any of their off season or in their training camp, it was very, very clear this is what the Indiana Fever were trying to do. So we're bringing back our paint on lines. So 3-point lines there, here. So this is what the Indiana Fever were trying to do on basically every screen. So there was a wing screen, and you were a defender, whatever way it is, an offensive player, defender. Let's just say most teams. For some reason, the Indiana Fever were preparing against a 4-out, 1-in, or we're preparing against a 3-out, 2-in, where a screener would come up here, and there would be another player on in the dunker spot, whereas every single team in the league is setting up here, here, and here. So what the Indiana Fever were doing was whoever was setting the screen is supposed to drop to here, and this person jumps up and refuses the screen so that they send them in here, they eventually recover, and this person recovers back. The problem is that when you do that, this defender here has to be pinching a bit. On the pick and roll here, this defender here has to pinch, and sometimes might have to tag the roller. Like, if the roller comes in, they might have to tag the roller and recover. This defender here has to be able to somewhat stunt at the screener and get back, or just have some line of help, and there has to be some form of help behind. The problem is that teams figured out very early that if this screen here was guard to guard, what was happening is that if this was guard to guard, the Indiana Fever players were sitting here. So instead of, if you were guarding the screener, you'd be sitting here. And then you'd see whoever the guard was, in a lot of situations, Caitlin Clark would jump up here. They would run to the basket, and because this person's waiting for the switch, they switch, and suddenly it's Caitlin Clark's giving up a layup. They're trying to switch. So what ended up happening was the Fever are blitzing screens, and instead of the bigs coming in and playing in an ice defense in denial, what ended up happening is that they were just having to run some exchanges with guards. And what was happening is that there's a mix-up that some people are using screens, other people are saying, oh no, it's guard to guard, we're switching it, and they're just giving up open layups. So they had to scrap it. They had to scrap what they want to do. Another reason they had to scrap what they want to do was because of help side. This is an offensive player here. The problem is, well, the Indiana Fever are the worst help defense team I've ever seen. So even on these situations now, what they can't really help because they're switching the screen. So they're soft switching. So in this scenario here, this player is dribbling up. And people are complaining about Caitlin Clark not hard switching. The whole team soft switches. They don't. We're fighting through screens. What happens here is that this player drops to here, and they don't even need to screen properly. And this player here, that's guarding the screener here, just waits. This player drops, this player waits, and then they can set up whatever they want. The problem is that in this scenario here, if you are this defender and you're switching everything, you have to come up high to at least force a stunt dribble. Because worst case scenario, like if you're switching here, you have to hard switch. Because if you hard switch, you've at least forced a stunt dribble. And what that means is that your player here is at least having to come under a bit of pressure. If you're Caitlin Clark and you stunt and they beat you, that's fine. Because if they've beat you at this angle, because it's very different. If they beat you and you've stunted the screen at this angle here and you're coming around, this help side defender here doesn't have to do what they've been doing. So what's been happening is that because Caitlin's been soft switching, they have been able to get to this position here, and this help defender, then a lot of the time it being Aaliyah, or say this help defender here, has just been running in while this player just cuts here. And it's a wide open layup. Or if it ends up being this player here sprints at the ball and you're leaving it here. What happens is you have to get better angles as a defensive player. And if you're Caitlin or whoever it is, it's one big thing tactically, because I don't blame an individual. It's clear their tactics to soft switch. You've got to push them out closer to the halfway line. You got to get them to stunt, because then this defender right here, by the time they beat you, whatever angle they beat you, this defender is able to stunt and recover, and this defender is able to play a little bit higher. Because they're coming in an angle, they're more rushed in their decision making. If they burn you, suddenly it's, okay, I'm going downhill, I'm already at full speed. It's harder to make decisions at full speed. Versus, okay, we've got the soft switch. I'm just going to wait. We're going to set up. Everyone's just going to get the fuck out of the way, and we're going to go downhill ISO. And the Indiana Fever don't play help defense. So, yeah, their scheme is horrendous. And it's clear in preseason what they were trying to do, and it's working horrendously awful. And from what I've seen, it's the Mo Billings of the world, the Ty Harrises of the world, the KK Timpsons of the world. KK is clueless. The worst part is you have to play KK because of her her qualities as a just lengthwise, athleticism wise, and finishing wise. Because of what she does, you have to play KK Timpson. The problem is you can't actually run a defensive scheme with KK Timpson because she's fucking clueless.
Us have to focus. We have a lot of young guns. We have a lot of people who are very talented, but at the same time, you have to dial in and know what we're doing. Otherwise, it just won't work. And so we had a long meeting yesterday. It was a really good meeting, and so hopefully. And
yeah, basically, that's all I said. We probably had 10 defense schemes last year. Each team has stuff up their sleeve. If you can't execute them, we can't do them. Yeah, basically, yeah. And I think she's on the money here. She's absolutely on the money. Like, they can't run a defensive scheme. They have no ability to run any sort of defensive scheme, because if they go and run a defensive scheme, if they run anything, it's going to go badly. Like, it is absolutely going to go badly no matter what they try to run, because someone's going to be lost. If one person is lost, and in Caitlin's defense, she's a decent system defender. Her positioning isn't bad. Her defense is iffy. Her ability to navigate screens, especially off the ball, is horrendous. Her positioning and her feel is not bad. If you put Caitlin in a system, you can still see they were clearly, based on preseason, trying to force refusing screens. And Caitlin was the most deliberate in doing that. But yeah, Sophie Cunningham's not wrong. This team needs something on defense. That's all I'm going to say. They need fucking something. Anyway, I'll see you guys.